Okay, very good. So we will now call to order the July 16, 2020 Delta Protection Commission Zoom meeting. And I believe staff has access to a flag that we can salute. Is that right, Eric? Is that able to locate a flag on our screen?
Yes, it should be on the screen right away.
All right.
It is on the screen, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. I didn't know if you are seeing the screen as well.
Well, you know what? Oh, there we go. I am now. Very good. Okay, so very good. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3, pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
The United States of America,
and to the republic
to the republic
for which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
one nation, under God,
under God,
liberty,
indivisible,
liberty.
for liberty,
justice for all.
justice.
All right. Well, I've done several of those. That may have been the worst. I'm not certain what happened there, but oh man, you think we get better at that? Oh man. Okay. So to start off with, got to remind everybody, please mute your phones or whatever device you're using, so that we don't have too much traffic all at once. So please mute your phones unless you're speaking, and that goes for the public as well. So if everybody would be mindful enough to take care of that first and foremost. So Stacy, our acting commission clerk, if you will do the honors of making sure that we have sufficient attendance by calling the roll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Starting out, calling roll for Chair Villegas,
Present.
Vice Chair Natoli,
Here.
Commissioner Wynn,
Here.
Commissioner Burgess,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Krieg,
Here.
Commissioner Cabaldon,
Here.
Commissioner Paroli, making sure you are unmuted. I'll try one more time. Commissioner Paroli. Thank you.
Here.
Commissioner Van Lobensel's. Checking again, making sure you're unmuted. Commissioner Van Lobensel's. Moving forward, Commissioner Musi. Commissioner Musi. Commissioner McElhenney.
Here.
Commissioner Lester Moffitt.
Here.
Commissioner Bush.
Here.
Assembly Member Jim Frazier. Are there any commissioners that have joined who have not called? You can either unmute or raise your hand in Zoom or reach out to somebody to let us know that you're on the phone. Okay, one moment, please. Chair Villegas, it looks like we have 11 commission members present.
All right, very good. Thank you, Stacy. So we have a quorum, so we'll proceed. That takes us to item 3, which is public comment. So Eric, you'll help me out with that. Do we have any public comment this evening that are on items that are not on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, we had no one that asked prior to the meeting, but there might be people who have identified themselves. And I think James was going to step in here. I'm sorry for that, James.
No, it's fine, Eric. There is one person with a raised hand right now. It's Charles Duloc. I can ask them to unmute to make a comment.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you. Yep.
Charles, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey, sorry, I was just going to introduce myself as being here on behalf of Assembly Member Jim Frazier earlier. That's all.
Very good. Welcome, Charles. Okay, if there are no other members of the public who want to speak on items that are not on the agenda, that'll take us to item 4, and that's the standing item for the chair's report on the Delta Stewardship Council activities. And I can go through that pretty quickly in a minute or two here. So we did have a meeting June 25th, excuse me, and not a lot to report, but I did want to make sure that the commission was aware of a few things. As you know, the Delta Stewardship Council is heavily weighted into the science world, and so there were I believe six new members appointed to the Delta Independent Science Board. That was one action that we took. We get an update from the Delta Water Master. Then we did finally endorse and adopt the council's public participation plan that staff's been working on for about a year. And then we had a nice presentation by staff on the California Department of Fish and Games, or Fish and Wildlife's Frank's Track, the Futures project. So got an update on that. I know, Diane, you've been tracking that very closely. So we had a nice update on that. Then I also, by virtue of the fact that I'm on the Stewardship Council, I also then participate on the DPAC, the Delta Plan Interagency Implementation Committee. And we did have a meeting on Monday, the 13th. There were 2 items of note that I wanted to share. One was we had a good presentation, an ongoing conversation about ecosystem-based management. And there were 2 examples provided to the council as to how ecosystem-based management works. One was a good example of the Central Valley Project Improvement Act. Some of you may be familiar with that. And then the incidental take permit for the state water project. So those are 2 good examples of how the ecosystem-based management is being used. And we also got a presentation on actions to achieve the ongoing and consistent and reliable science funding that we've talked about for quite some time. As you know, there are challenges with and notion of all kinds of different sources using funds for science, and there's not one place to really go to understand precisely how much is being funded to support the Delta Science Funding Governance Initiative. And so without belaboring that point, Erik, I believe you've got a copy of a link that really provides a great, very simple, easy read. It's the Delta Crosscut Budget Survey Report. It's actually, it's an easy read. It's got a lot of good graphics in there. It really does show how much money is going towards science and how it's being used. And it's the sort of the foundational starting point, if you will, for that conversation that's going to be ongoing. So Erik will send you out a link to that report. It's actually quite informative. So that was all I had to report, unless there are any questions of anything I've provided so far. Seeing none, that takes us to item 5, which is commissioner comments or announcements. Anybody from the commission have anything to share with the rest of the group?
Mr. Chair, this is Skip.
Yes, sir.
If I can make a comment. Last meeting, I made comment about the unreliability of the ferry system in the Delta. And I understood that we would have a standing agenda item to talk about these issues on our monthly meeting. Did I misunderstand that, or?
No, you are absolutely correct. I think Erik, Erik, you want to apologize?
I do. I
apologize,
Commissioner Thompson. This should have been on the agenda. If it's agreeable, I'd like to report during my executive director report on what I would have said had it been in my report and on the agenda. But that was an oversight on my part, and I will attempt to partially rectify it through the report I'll give.
Yep, very good. Does that work for you, Skip?
It does, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yep. Very good. No, it didn't get unnoticed, and we did receive correspondence from Mr. Wells on the item, so we were reminded of that. Okay, that then takes us to item 6, which is the consent agenda. We only have the minutes from the May 21st meeting, so we're looking for a motion to adopt the minutes, and we'll need a roll call after that, after a motion in a second. So do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. All right, so Skip and Diane, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. So Stacy, if you will, with our roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Villegas,
Yes,
Vice Chair Natoli,
Aye.
Commissioner Wynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Krieg,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabaldon,
Yes.
Commissioner Paroli,
Yes.
Commissioner McElhaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Lester Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Bush,
Yes.
Are there any commissioners that have since joined that have been unaccounted for? You can raise your hand if you're unable to unmute, or you can unmute now. Okay, one moment, please. Mr. Chair, we have 11 ayes and 0 nays and 0 abstains.
Madam Clerk, thank you very much. So that motion carries and we take care of the May 21 meeting minutes. That takes us to item 7, which is the Executive Director's Report. Eric, that's you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and commission members. A few things I would like to highlight from my written report that was provided in the meeting packet. First off, this was not provided in the meeting packet, but I did just get a message from Commissioner McElhaney letting me know that this will be his last commission meeting because he'll be retiring after a long career with Caltrans in about half a month. And so I say on behalf of me, I really appreciated the opportunity to work with Commissioner McElhaney. He's been a great contact at Caltrans, and I'll look forward to working with whoever the designee is from the State Transportation Agency. But best wishes to you, Commissioner McElhaney.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you to the commission overall and the staff. It's been fantastic to work with. And thanks to the Assemblymember and Senator's office too, and Secretary David Kim, who's been a great supporter of ours at the Delta Protection Commission, and I thank him for his appointment. I'll be retiring after 32 and a half years at the end of the month, so it's a big change, but I really appreciate this opportunity, and keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic for the Delta, and it's fantastic for California. Thank you.
Absolutely. And on behalf of all of us, congratulations on your retirement, 32-year career. That's a beautiful thing. So congratulations to you. And thank you for serving. And we're going to miss your service here. And don't be a stranger. So I hope it wasn't because Skip was insistent on getting Caltrans to help us with that ferry. Skip, we have to blame you for that one.
No, I know that District 4 and Barton, their Chief Public Affairs, is ready to help there. But it's been an honor being part of the Delta Protection Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Right, Eric.
All right, thank you. Delta Conveyance Project. The commission staff meets with the Delta Conveyance Office staff. We did have a meeting since the last time the commission met. We will make those a regular occurrence just to keep coordinated with the efforts of the staff on the tunnel project. As you all probably know, even though it was after the commission staff packet had been released, July 10th, DWR released the scoping document for the project, and it summarized the comments received, and there were substantial comments received, but also it includes all of the comment letters as well. So if anyone was tracking or is interested in the scoping efforts related to the tunnel project, take a look on the Delta Conveyance website. You will find a number of different documents available there. And as others have probably heard in different settings, we are being told that the EIR, the draft EIR, is anticipated in early 2021 for that project. And then finally, the Stakeholder Engagement Committee, which advises the Design and Construction Authority, has been meeting monthly. They'll be meeting again next week on July 22nd. Moving on to the Delta National Heritage Area, we did execute our cooperative agreement with the National Park Service in June. So that formally releases the federal funding in federal fiscal year 2020, which is the year that began October 1st. And we would anticipate a similar level of federal support in federal fiscal year 2021, which we're just a handful of months away from at this point. Point Heritage Development is our consultant that's working with us on these early stages of the National Heritage Area Management Plan. And we're expecting initial deliverables from them in the fall that we will be able to begin talking about interested stakeholders and commission members. So I would expect that we'll have a more thorough discussion of the NHA when we meet again in September. Moving on, we're in a new state fiscal year that began July 1st. The Commission's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget is pretty much a baseline budget. As you all are aware, there are personnel cuts that are implemented as part of this new budget. Those are really the only change to our baseline budget. So that's the good news. The not good news is that your commission staff will be taking the salary cut, as will other state of California employees. And speaking of staff, we have re-advertised for a commission clerk. We were unsuccessful in finding a candidate that we could hire. We found some really good candidates, but none that we were able to extend an offer to in the first go around. And so we will be starting that process over again. And then many of you might have heard that the state of California is devoting significant state personnel toward the COVID-19 contact tracing effort. And we were asked to volunteer an employee, and Jeremy Terhune, our staff planner, was great enough to put his name forth, and he has been enlisted into the contact tracing effort. So he has just been assigned. We expect that he probably will be assigned to that temporary duty for the next 6 months. And Jeremy was our lead on Great Delta Trail planning, among other things. So we will have a little bit of pause in our Great Delta Trail planning effort as a result. Some other items in my report: there's a website and social media metrics for the second quarter of the calendar year. There's a snapshot of our prior fiscal year budget, our 2019-2020 state budget, and the spending by strategic theme. As usual, there's a summary of commission land use letters, only a very few since our last commission meeting, but those are summarized on page 2 of the report. And on pages 7 to 9 of the report is a commission projects update. This is something I've recently added. I'm getting better about adding more detail to that, but it's an opportunity to get a current picture of what doesn't get reported on otherwise. And of course, there's a substantial number of activities. And then in response to Commissioner Thompson and to Chair Villegas and my oversight completely, to provide a report on how we're progressing on Delta transportation challenges. Since the last commission meeting, I have received some information via Assemblyman Frazier's office that came from Caltrans. It's information about the operation and the costs to operate the Ryer Island ferries. That's real eye-opening information because it's a costly operation, but the amount of time in service has been significantly reduced over the last couple of years because of those mechanical problems that they've been experiencing with the ferry. One item of follow-up is that I'm hoping to, and forgive me, Commissioner McElhaney, for not mentioning this to you prior, but I'm hoping to grab just a little bit of his time before the end of the month to run a few ideas by him in terms of some of the next steps I'd like to take working with Caltrans. And then I've also been holding off a little bit on planning for the transportation summit that is something that was called for in that advisory committee recommendation to the full commission, and which you all accepted. And my hope was that, you know, we're going to get our way out of this COVID thing relatively soon. We could actually plan it for in person. But I'm at the point now where I think it should just be planned to be conducted via remote means. It's not ideal for the type of program that we would like to organize, but maybe on the plus side, it will attract better participation as a result, given that people don't have to travel to it. But I really want to step up the planning for that in earnest and hopefully find a time in the fall that could work for the primary participants in that, so we can get a date on the calendar and start working through the details. So not a lot to report on Delta transportation challenges, but armed with some better information on the Ryer Island ferry situation, and then looking forward to beginning the work in earnest on the transportation summit. And then, Mr. Chair, if I could add one additional item before I conclude my report, and it's just to recognize the passing of Jay Sorensen. Jay Sorensen died on June 22nd. Much of what I'm going to mention here is courtesy of a very nice obituary that Dan Bacher published in the Stockton Record. But some commission members, maybe many commission members, might know Jay. He was a Stockton resident, a dedicated conservationist. He was a Delta fishing guide for over 40 years, and many considered him the best bait fisherman in the Delta. And also most recently, he was the fish columnist for the River News Delta Herald. He founded the California Striped Bass Association in 1974. That might have been others working with him, but he was one of the founders of that. And this was a quote that was in the obituary that I especially liked. It was attributed to Jay. He said, "The San Joaquin River flows by gravity for its first 100 miles, but it flows by politics for the remainder of its journey to the ocean." And he was a real true defender of the Delta. And I know probably many of you on the phone knew Jay. Rest in peace. Jolly Jay Sorensen, he was known by many. And I had the fortune to meet him briefly on a couple of occasions, but we recognize his passing. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Right. Thank you for that, Eric. Are there any questions by any members of the commission about Eric's report? Hearing and seeing none, is there any public comment on Eric's report?
There's no hands currently raised.
No hands. Okay, very good. Then that will, so maybe what we can do, Eric, is we can close today's, this afternoon's meeting in Jay's honor as a way to recognize his passing. So
thank you.
All right, if there are no other comments on item 7, that takes us to item 8, which is the DPAC report. Mark Pruner, I believe, is on the line. Mark, are you with us?
I am, Mr. Chair. Can you hear
Welcome.
me okay?
Yes, sir, we can hear you fine.
Thank you very much.
Welcome,
Thank
Mark.
you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. We, members of the commission, we had the pleasure of having one of our best meetings ever this couple weeks ago on June 29th. It was outside, graciously hosted at the home of Mike Campbell in Clarksburg under a patch of redwoods. If possible, I don't know how this would work, but it would be a great DPC meeting spot if that could be arranged. And we're thankful to Mike for lending us the use of his home. I want to start by saying that this is a bit of an introductory meeting, a new start meeting, because we had so many new members. I want to thank the commission for the very high quality of members that were present. Everybody was engaged. We had nearly everybody there. Great questions were asked. And most importantly, there was a high level of interest in personally contributing to the efforts of the commission as it works to protect the Delta and represent the interests of the Delta in a broader world. We heard a report from Blake Roberts about the progress being made in the National Heritage Area. There was great enthusiasm about that. In fact, some folks volunteered to personally help him if that would be helpful to him in the steps that staff was taking, that he and Erik are taking. We heard, I thought, a pretty good report from a member of the SEC, which is the advisory committee set up by the water contractors on the proposed water project in the Delta. In fact, 3 of our DPAC members are also on the SEC. And I know I was got some new information. For example, their SEC has been informed that the proposed tunnel boring machine will move at a rate of 2 miles a year underground. So they can give you an idea of how long this project is going to take just on the boring side. There's going to be 1 or 2 new roads. They're trying to work on transportation issues. The members of the committee generally feel largely frustrated being forced to meet in a COVID environment where they can't bounce ideas off each other and provide meaningful content that they otherwise at the level they could if they were in person. But there's a little bit of good news for them. The water contractors indicated that the SEC would be continuing beyond its original ending date in the next couple of months, and perhaps as long as a year, maybe even more. We closed out the meeting by having a roundtable, and I asked for input of members, especially new members, what they wanted to see happen in their role as members of the advisory committee. And many of them said, they talked about transportation, community focus, working together, doing everything they could to support the commission, bring forward good ideas, reach out to folks in the Delta. But a consistent theme was asking, there was real interest in knowing specifically what the commission wanted us to do. And I drew a little bit of a blank. I know there's been a little discussion maybe in years past on that topic, but I thought it was an excellent idea being brought forward to ask the commission for its guidance and direction. So I had a conversation with Chair Villegas on that topic and looking for input from the commission to us, so we are hearing the commission loud and clear and what issues are important to the commission members, so we can be more focused in the next year or 2. And that concludes my report. Again, I just want to say thank you personally to the members of the commission for the high quality of membership that you appointed. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that report. Are there any comments or questions by members of the commission of Mark's report?
Mr. Chair, while you're awaiting those, if I could ask the previous slide to go back up. you all might have noticed there was a slide on the screen that talked about the Delta Protection Advisory Committee. And I just wanted to draw your, thank you. I just wanted to draw your attention to this. This is really what the advisory committee does. I wanted to summarize in really short form. And I know the advisory committee is, talking about its work plan, the things it would like to work on, but I just wanted to remind commission members what it is they do and how they provide input to the commission. So just wanted to draw everyone's attention to that. It should be up on your screen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Eric. Looks like we do have a hand.
From
Is that
Lynn
a-
Hanson. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll
Ms.
ask them to
Hanson?
unmute. Lynn, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You're talking about the dredging again. Are they going to start building that tunnel again? I'm not up to date on that.
Is that your question? We can respond. We just, yeah.
The reason why I ask is back when Mike Reagan was county supervisor, he and another gentleman who were very much informed on what it would take and everything, had said that the dredging could never happen because there's miles and miles and miles of rock they have to go through that you could never go through. Has something been clarified on that?
So yeah. So we're going to get staff to answer the question. So is that your public comment? Is that
Well,
your
that was
question?
my question. My question, yes, about that when they talk about dredging the tunnel.
Got it. Okay, very good. All right, thank you for that, Lynn. So Eric, do you want to address the issue of dredging in the prior iterations of the conveyance project versus where it's at now? Is there good information?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And I'd be happy to follow up with Ms. Hanson offline, but the Delta Conveyance project that I reported on earlier, that's the single tunnel project. So yes, the Delta Tunnel project is very much alive. It's currently in the planning phase. And it would definitely be worthwhile to be aware of that. But I can follow up with Ms. Hanson offline. If you'd like to give our office a call anytime after the meeting, Ms. Hanson, I'd be happy to talk with you further.
Yep. Yeah, that would be good. There's a whole lot of information out there. So Eric, if you can help connect her to those resources, there's a lot of different ways in which to track the status of the work that's being done on the project. So, okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hanson, for your question and comment. I don't see any other hands on the DPAC report. I did have a chance to talk to Chair Pruner about it, and because there are several new commissioners over the course of the last year, we've not had a conversation about DPAC, its role, what it's done, what it has been doing, who's on the DPAC. And so maybe, Eric, in addition to the slide, maybe for the next meeting, you can, or between now and the next meeting, you can provide the commission, the sort of the framework under which the DPAC operates, things that it has done, and then begin to query the commissioners on items that we'd like to bring forward for discussion as a possible, operations, or agenda items for the DPAC to explore going forward. Because I hear Mark asking, and so it'd be a good opportunity to kind of bone up on the status of the DPAC, what it's for, and as I said, things that we have in common that we'd like them to explore. So maybe for the next meeting we can explore that.
Yes, that can be an additional introduction to the DPAC report.
Okay. All right. Are there any commissioners with any comments or questions on any part of the DPAC report and what was just mentioned? So seeing none, that will take us then to item 9, which I know Blake has about a 10-minute report to report on the Delta Community Design Study. Is that right, Blake?
That's correct.
All right, you're up.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Chair Villegas and members of the Commission. My name is Blake Roberts, and I am a Senior Environmental Planner with the Commission and Coordinator for the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta National Heritage Area. This afternoon, I will provide an update on the Delta Community Design Study. So next slide, please. I previously presented to the commission about the Delta Community Action Planning effort, which is a commission program focused on preparing and implementing action-oriented plans in Delta legacy communities. One of the recurring themes during the community action planning process has been the need for physical improvements that enhance the quality of life and historic character of the communities. These efforts can also benefit the Commission's work on the National Heritage Area. The Commission selected Urban Field Studio, an urban design consulting firm, to work with diverse stakeholders in assessing potential physical improvements for Sacramento River communities with traditional main streets and prioritizing their importance for community efforts, grant writing, and funding. Next slide, please. The focus of the study was on the communities of Cortland, Freeport, Ileton, Locke, and Walnut Grove, which are all communities with existing main streets. Though the meetings also discussed regional issues as well. Urban Field Studio worked with Commission staff to post an online survey and hold stakeholder interviews in a full-day workshop in January. Over 40 people participated in the stakeholder interviews and workshop, including staff from Sacramento County, Caltrans, and the Delta Conservancy. A second in-person meeting to discuss recommended community and regional improvements was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So Commission staff and Urban Field Studio engaged in other types of community outreach, including an online meeting and a website that summarized potential improvements and featured regional and community surveys. The surveys closed on May 31st. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Urban Field Studio prepared maps with recommendations for 5 communities. More detail on the maps and the recommendations are currently available at the project website, which is www.deltacommunitydesign.org. This map for the community of Cortland includes proposed traffic calming along Highway 160 and improvements to the Highway 160 boardwalk, Cortland Auditorium, and open space around the Cortland Library. Next slide, please. Stakeholders in Freeport also recommended slowing traffic on Highway 160, sidewalks and gateway signs on 160, and extending the Sacramento River Trail to the Freeport Bridge. Next slide, please.
Hey, Blake, could I just step in real quickly and to let commission members know, we recognize that you cannot read the labels on these maps, but these maps are on the website, much more legible. And we just wanted to, give you a sense of how many different items had been identified by showing these images, but the website will have legible versions of all of this. Sorry about that.
No, thank you for pointing that out.
No, that's a good, actually, this is Oscar. That's a good point. In some cases, depending on the device that you're using, you can't actually use your fingers to grab the screen and open it up to make it a little bit bigger. So it is legible, but depending on what you're using. So sorry, Blake, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend going to the website to get the presentation is really just to provide a little flavor for what is in the recommendations, but the website allows you to really be able to see things a lot more clearly. So I'll remind people about what the name of the website is before I finish up my presentation. Actually, if we could switch to the one for Ileton. So Ileton's recommendations include streetscape improvements on Main Street and Highway 160 with trees, street furniture, and lights, new and enhanced boating facilities, and public art on the water tower. Next slide, please. Much of the recommendations for Locke focus on its distinctive Main Street, including improvements to the streetscape and vacant storefronts and restoration of the Star Theater. But there are also suggested gateway signs and stop signs along River Road and trail connections with the Delta Meadow State Park and with Walnut Grove. Next slide. Walnut Grove's recommendations concentrated on pedestrian improvements on both sides of the river along River Road and Highway 160, access to the Sacramento River and to Locke, and reuse of vacant storefronts and vacant lots. Next slide, please. Stakeholders also developed a list of regional ideas. Many of them are very similar to what was discussed in the individual communities, such as storefront cleanup, stronger connections to the river, additional signs, Main Street improvements and trails. But there are also more general recommendations, including continued work on Delta marketing, lodging, and gateway signs, especially along I-5 and Highway 4. One of the things that's mentioned on here as well is a possible tourism expo to kind of highlight the kind of sites and places to go in the Delta. Next slide, please. Other regional ideas were out there, including alternative ways to visit the Delta, whether by boat, train, bike, bus, or shuttle. Efforts to streamline building approvals, particularly for historic buildings, public art, and a central location for government services and community meetings. Next steps on the project include preparation of a final report and distribution to the City of Ileton, Sacramento County, Caltrans, and other agencies. We will be working with different groups, including the Delta Conservancy, on potential funding options, as well as identifying smaller projects that can be implemented with smaller amounts of money. Obviously, one of the things that has been kind of a continued focus of our work, as is shown during this meeting, is transportation, and transportation really showed up as a major part of the Delta community design. So that's definitely something that we want to talk about as well. One of the things I just wanted to do is just send my appreciation to all the people that have been involved in this effort, and we're really looking forward to kind of moving forward on the next steps with this. So thank you so much for your time. I wanted to remind you of the website address. It's www.deltacommunity, sorry if I can say that again, www.deltacommunitydesign.org. And that website will be taken down after the completion of the final report, but it will be up for at least a little while longer. So with that, any questions?
All right, are there any? All right, any questions of Lake or his report? Not seeing any at the moment. Are there any hands up for public comment on this item?
No hands currently.
No hands currently. No commission member questions or comments. Okay, Blake, well, thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate the update and great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Right. That takes care of item 9. Item 10 is a report on the Delta Focus Group. I believe Virginia is presenting. Is that right? Virginia, you with us?
Yes.
All right.
Good afternoon, Chair Villegas and commissioners. This afternoon, I wanted to just present quickly an update on the update of the recreation chapter for our economic sustainability plan, specifically on our focus groups that we conducted. The purpose and objectives of the focus groups were to evaluate the state of Delta recreation and tourism by gathering insights regarding trends, successes, opportunities, barriers, and potential solutions to economic sustainability issues around Delta recreation and tourism. We also wanted to investigate existing business owners' ability to create solid, cohesive infrastructure and growth opportunities, and to look at the possible ways of expanding the customer base of the Delta by listening to interests and motivations of current visitors, as well as those who may be less likely to recreate in the Delta. And then finally, we wanted to make sure that we understood the current level of knowledge of the Delta Protection Commission and other state programs, such as the Great Delta Trail, National Heritage Area designation, the Marketing Task Force, and the website visitcadelta.com. Next slide, please. So just quickly to run down the methods. the overall study, of course, the recreation update is being conducted by our consultant, the Dan German Group, and they have a sub-consultant very experienced in doing focus groups called the Henny Group. Henny Group organized 5 focus groups, and the groups were specifically marina owners, business owners in the Northeast and Southwest Delta, as well as recreation providers in the Northeast and Southwest Delta, activity participants such as kayakers, sailboarders, etc. And then the 5th group was an underserved community group, which was mainly recruited from the Stockton area, but there were a few other, for example, Antioch resident. Then as you can see, the focus groups were about 2 hours, and from those focus groups, there were transcripts prepared and provided to us. Next slide, please. Just to mention that we did have some challenges with the focus groups. Obviously, there were, you know, the COVID-19 sort of started right in the middle of our the groups that we were holding. However, the benefit of working with Henny Group was that they were very experienced in doing virtual meetings, and we actually had very smooth meetings with most everyone able to participate via webcam. So the way we recruited was, as you can see, by phone or emails. We located contacts from a number of community groups, as well as using social media posters and referrals from specific individuals who we queried. Next slide, please. We also screened the participants to make sure that we had a representative sample. Since we didn't have unlimited funds, we wanted to make sure that we had a broad representation of Delta residents and recreators. Next slide, please. So there were 3 total groups that were in the sort of business community and recreation provider community. And those were, as I mentioned, the marina owners, because marinas, of course, being a primary driver of the recreation economy. And then Northeast and Southwest Delta recreation activity providers that were the second 2 groups. And the current activity participants were people like members of a bicycling club or kayaking group. And then finally, our underserved community group was generally younger, non-Caucasian and lower income participants. And several of the participants in that group were definitely had young families. Next slide, please. So the feedback that we got in the all of the focus groups really reflected a lot of what you heard from Blake in his presentation on the community design work. Everyone uniformly said that the Delta is a hidden gem, which we all know, that it's so easy to go from the crowded metropolitan areas to suddenly disappear into the Delta and be surrounded by nature. And everyone uniformly found that to be their motivating factor for coming to the Delta. But also, unfortunately, the deterrents such as the derelict vessels and vacant storefronts continue to be an issue for people. And essential facilities such as restrooms, you know, were not readily available, distributed throughout the Delta. So next slide, please. So in terms of attracting visitors, again, there were lots of suggestions, many of which we've certainly undertaken, but a lot of, as you can see, a lot of the suggestions related to things like make a day tour where we can do lots of different activities that showcase the Delta character. And what's interesting about that is that we actually, in one of the business providers, we had a tourism boat operator who was doing exactly that. So next slide. In some respects, what we found with the focus groups was that the suggestions were all excellent, And also, many of them were already being implemented, but there wasn't a lot of awareness of it. So for example, increasing annual events within the Delta and family-friendly activities was very frequently mentioned, especially in the underserved community group, where they were, you know, saying that it would be helpful to have more affordable options for family groups. Next slide, please. And then they gave us some suggestions about what the Delta Protection Commission could do specifically to be facilitating and improving the economy in the Delta. Among others, they suggested recommending facilitating networking between local businesses. There was a lot of excitement about just within each of the focus groups about getting connected and being able to communicate with their communities. And also suggesting that we continue to do more promotion of Delta-related activities within specific areas, such as farm to fork kinds of preparation of a homegrown meal, or how to maintain a boat, and so forth. Next slide. Another suggestion that I thought was especially interesting was the idea of a young ambassador program, since that seems as though it would provide a nice complement to our Delta Leadership Program. And then the younger crowd were saying, promote buy one, get one, rent a kayak, get a half-price lunch, things like that. So there were some, you know, they appreciated recommendations and suggestions that many of the participants had, and really trying to understand better what it was that all the different Delta agencies do, and understanding which ones do which roles, which is something we do here a lot. And in general, the focus groups were very helpful to us. They did a lot of how to be the effect of confirming much of what we already knew statistically, but putting faces on a lot of the concerns. And so this is going to be very valuable in completing the chapter update, which is being worked on right now. And we will be providing some more detail to you in the fall and starting on our public outreach effort. So thanking the Dangerman Group and Henny Group for their very good efforts in recruiting really good focus groups. And thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Virginia, for that presentation. Are there any commissioners with any questions or comments regarding that presentation? The idea that we might consider how to embed young ambassadors into the Delta leadership sounds intriguing to me. We're always trying to figure out how to recruit younger, you know, that next generation, but it's the now generation, right? So I'd love to figure out a way to explore that, maybe not to the full extent in year one, but certainly considered figuring out a way to bring a younger crowd into a part of the leadership program in some way or some form or fashion. I think that makes all the sense in the world. And if they're asking for it, I mean, it's all the more reason why we should consider it. So is there any public comment on this item, Eric? I don't see any hands.
No hands currently.
No hands, okay. So Virginia, did you, this was just a presentation, you didn't, you don't need any action on it, it's just gonna be a part of the ESC or the ESP work? I did want to mention that yes, okay. I did want to mention, I was surprised to find the Great Trails signage out riding my bike. And I was pleasantly surprised to see they're starting to put signs out. So looks good. Thank you for the work that's finally starting to occur to designate where that great trail will end up. So
yeah, Mr. Chair, Jeremy Terhune will be thrilled to hear your comment. And we do have designated trail segments, and we endeavor to get signage up on those designated trail segments, but there are several in the city of West Sacramento, which I'm guessing is where you encountered the sign. So glad to hear that.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. They were subtle, simple. They kind of fit in. I almost didn't even see it. It fit in so well. So well done. Well done there. All right, I don't see any hands to comment on Virginia's presentation. Thank you very much, Virginia, for that work. It's incredibly important that we continue to, at the ground level, continue to dialogue and spend our time talking to folks to see kind of where they see the recreational update headed. So thank you for that. All right, that concludes our official business, unless there are any other comments or questions by any members of the commission. I would ask that we would adjourn this meeting in honor of Jay Sorensen, as mentioned earlier.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you everybody for joining this evening. That makes it officially adjourned meeting. Thank you all. We'll see you next time. And I think the next meeting is now what scheduled for September 17th, right, Eric? Yep.
See you in September.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you all. Good job.
Yep.
Thank you.